Welcome, friends. Today, we are doing another fragrance review. About time. And the fragrance we are reviewing today is Dior's Eau Noire. So, my reviews, how I do them is that I will tell you the notes in the fragrance. I tell you what notes I get predominantly to me. And then I will just sit and talk about it, give my opinion. I have to tell you, I'm not a professional. I am not someone trained, or I'm not an expert. I am very much a consumer. Very much a consumer. And so these are a consumer's opinions. Don't expect any sort of outrageous insight into chemicals or blending or things like that. But I will tell you what I know, and I'll tell you how I feel. So, before we start, I should say this bottle is from 2013. This is not an original. The original Eau Noire was created in 2004 by Francis Kurkdjian for Dior. It was one of the original 3 from this line. The other 2 were Cologne Blanche, which I believe was also made by Francis Kurkdjian, and the other was Bois d'Argent, which was made by Annick Minardo. Over the years, Dior re-released and expanded their line to include other fragrances like Eau d'Ispahan, Mitza, Granville, Leather Oud, Patchouli Imperial, lots and lots of things, especially in the last 5 years. But this was one of the originals, the originals. Although this isn't an original bottle. This is an eau de parfum reformulation that Francois Demachy did when they were reformulated from eau de cologne concentration to eau de parfum. This is the reformulation, as I've said. It is pre-rebranding when Dior changed this cap, as you can see, a distinctive CD, and they changed their caps and their logo so the C and the D were connected. Okay, so you could read it CD whichever way around you turned it. I don't know, it came across, to me it looks a little bit Chanel, and I felt like in the last 5 to 6 years Dior have been chasing Chanel, trying to be more like Chanel, when they should be their own brand. I actually prefer Dior fragrance. Well, I used to prefer Dior fragrances, but that's for another video. So now you know what version this is. Oh, I should also say, this has also just been re-released by Francis Kurkdjian, who is now the in-house perfumer at Dior. I've smelled the new version. I prefer this version. I think this is the version I smelled first. I have a theory that whichever version of a fragrance you smell first is the one that you will always refer back to. You might not always love it the most, but you'll always think, because first impressions are a big thing for humans, right? So that's where we're at as far as that's concerned, and that's where I'm at. So now you know which version I'm talking about. Now you know what the bottle is, what I'm like, we're on the same page, Fantastic. I shall tell you what the notes are. The notes. Top notes of thyme and sage. Middle notes of lavender, coffee, Virginia cedar, immortelle, saffron. And the base notes are licorice, vanilla, violet, leather, and stems green. I once heard that there was strawberry in this. Now, I don't know that. I don't know that I've ever smelled strawberry in here. But it wouldn't surprise us. The big notes that I get from this: lavender, coffee, immortelle, saffron, licorice. They are the dominant, very dominant notes to my nose. I don't know that Dior was using their own ingredients at this point, because they have tried to become more in-house in the last few years, the same way Chanel are vertically integrated. Everything about Chanel is made for and by Chanel. You know, that's what vertical integration means. They source their own materials, they bottle everything themselves, they don't buy externally from other companies that source the materials. Everything is picked by Chanel for Chanel. I don't know if Dior were doing that at this point. I know they've tried to do it since. There was a film released, a short film with Demaché in it, where it was called Nose. And after that film was released, he promptly left. So I don't know what's going on as far as that's concerned. But on to how I feel about this fragrance, and I can talk about this fragrance. This is massive. This fragrance is massive. It is pungent, it is thick, it is dense, it's syrupy, it's rich, it's spicy. It's very different. For me, when I first spray it, and I'm going to spray it, and my room's going to stink, but we like that sort of thing, don't we? One spray will do. So the first thing that hits me is this kind of herbal greenness. And the top notes are supposed to be thyme and sage, right? And you get that kind of green, slightly herbal, like that kind of kitchen gourmand kind of thing. It's evocative of a kitchen, you know. It's got that cooking kind of haze about it, you know, like food in the air. It's very herbal and green, but it's also spicy as well. This will smell a bit saffron, a bit of saffron to you, as it does to me. It's got this almost, it's almost got this kind of frying kind of vibe to it. It's rich, it's dense. As that sort of herbaceousness starts to come away, you get this creamy strangeness. And that is the lavender and the vanilla. So lavender's in the mid and vanilla's in the base, but they both make themselves very apparent when they first get when they first like, I was going to say they make themselves very apparent when they both first appear, but obviously, you know, they become apparent much earlier in the fragrance than their position in the pyramid would indicate, you know. There's almost an ice cream kind of vibe to it. One of the reasons I think there's an ice cream kind of vibe to it is the coffee note. Now, I don't know if you've ever smelled like coffee cake or coffee ice cream, but it's got that kind of vibe. Again, food, big food, but there's the spice is still there, and that's from like the Immortelle and the saffron, no doubt. The spice is still there, and it's always there. But you get this creamy coffee sort of vibe coming in. Lavender obviously plays into that as well, because lavender's like a creamy, it's that kind of lavender. It's not powdery lavender at all. It's a creamy lavender. So I'm just going to spray this again on a card. It's not that I can't smell it, it's that I want to bring it. I sprayed it in the air when I sprayed it earlier. But okay. So you do get this creamy coolness, because lavender can be quite cooling as well. It's quite smart. What it reminds me of is like an Italian cafe where you've got coffee, you've got well-dressed people, you've got food cooking, and you've got liveliness, you've got volume. There's, I don't want to say gregarious, it's bustling, it's live, it's life. The coffee and the vanilla and the lavender combine to give that kind of sophisticated liveliness. But then the Immortelle, which is very apparent to me as well, the Immortelle and the saffron are sort of at the back. Then they are definitely there. They're almost shy notes in this. They're definitely there. And you can definitely smell them, but they never want to be the center of attention. They're friendly, they're nice, they're not too much. They're stylish, they're cool, but they're not trying to grab you. The bigger notes in this, vanilla, coffee, lavender, licorice, have no right in your mind to work together, and yet they do. This really, really does indicate how good Francis Kurkdjian is. To me, this is his best perfume. He's made a lot of perfumes, and he's made a lot of perfumes that people love. To me, this is his best one, by quite some distance. I don't like Le Male. I don't care for Baccarat Rouge. I haven't smelled any of those Eli Saabs, which are amazing. I really like Narciso Rodriguez for him. This is completely to the, like, I don't want to say to the left, but I don't mean like, I mean, this is left field. This is completely from like another, this is like another dimension to those perfumes. You wouldn't think that he had made it until somebody tells you that he's made it. And you're like, oh, it does actually have his kind of scaffold, his kind of thought process behind it. He's just used some of the most wacky notes that don't belong anywhere near each other in it. And it's beautiful. I wish he made more stuff like this. Not this exact smell. This fragrance exists in its own place, you know? And it doesn't exist without Heidi Slimane either. A year before the Dior Homme perfume came out, this one here. A year before this came out, and the Dior Homme Silhouette that Heidi Slimane created in 2005. This was released along with Cologne Blanche and along with Bois d'Argent. Those three fragrances in a line together smell like they belong in a line together. I've smelled Cologne Blanche, I've got Bois d'Argent. I don't like Cologne Blanche personally, but I love Bois d'Argent and I love this. Yes, they're made by different perfumers, but they belong in a line. Heidi Slimane deserves immense credit, especially looking back nearly 20 years later, to have the balls to release something like this. Coeur de Jean deserves immense credit for having the balls to create something like this. Almost garish, but not. Very, very strange, very, very different, very, very unique. It's got this huge lavender, which peeks out. It's blended to perfection. It's blended. It's made beautifully. It's blended beautifully. Everything works together. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is wrong. It's very difficult to pick notes out until you know they're there and you can spot them. If I go to smell lavender in this perfume, there it is. I can smell it straight away. It's fantastic. And everything else sort of like moves to the back. Or what I should say is the lavender steps forward. If I go to smell coffee in this, there it is. Right? If you asked somebody in the abstract to pick out what was in this, they almost certainly couldn't. What they would say is that they can smell the whole perfume, and that's what perfumes used to be like. I'm not a big fan of modern perfumes personally, mainly because the three-tier structure almost doesn't exist anymore, and it's a shame. It's a big shame, because perfumes were much more interesting when they were like that. But that's the way it seems to be going at the minute. Before I go on, I need to talk about the licorice. I've seen licorice used at the top, the mid and the bottom of perfumes. It's at the top of one of my favourite fragrances, which is Smalt Eau for Men. In here, it's in the base. It's in Lolita Lempicka's Eau Masculine, which was made by Alec Minardo, I believe. But this is my favourite use of licorice, because while it's a big note and you can smell it definitely, right? It's definitely there. It never overtakes or detracts or dominates or jars. I find licorice a difficult note to deal with in a lot of circumstances. It'll pop up and you'll be like, ooh, there's licorice. For me, I'm not a huge licorice fan, though I do like it. But I've got to be in the mood. It's one of those foods. I've got to be in the mood, you know? It's not like chocolate or something when you can just pick it up and eat it anytime you want. For me, it is definitely to be used sparingly, and when you do use it, you enjoy it. In this perfume, you can wear this frequently and not get bored of it. It doesn't jar, it's not strange, it's not exotic, it's not weird, but it's there, and it's very, very cleverly used. The whole perfume itself, if you stand back from it and smell it as if you're smelling it for the first time again, even 20 years later, this is still incredibly unique. It's still incredibly different. It's still incredible. This is a 250ml bottle and I've got 2 of them. I absolutely love it. This is the dark green version. The modern one that you will see in the shops is only available for the last 6 months. I think not even the last 6 months. What am I saying? It's the last 3 months. And they've taken the dark green colouring out. I think that takes away from the idea of the perfume. The idea of the perfume is black water, dark water. You know, it's meant to be dark. It's meant to be strange. It's meant to be different. You don't find many perfumes that are this kind of pond green sort of look, you know. That is colourant. I mean, make no doubt, that's not how it looks, but it fits the aesthetic of the perfume beautifully. It doesn't smell dark green. I don't know what stems green are, you know. Interesting, though. It is a true gourmand. It's not just a vanilla ice cream or chocolate run-of-the-mill sort of gourmand. It smells like a kitchen in action, where you're making all 3 meals. You're making a starter, you're making a main course and a dessert. It wears beautifully. When you wear this, you feel like it's an event. This is a 250ml bottle. You can see, and I have a large collection, you can see how much I've used of it. That should indicate how much I think of it. I don't just think that this is a brilliant perfume objectively. I think it's a brilliant perfume subjectively as well. I love it. And I will continue to love it. I can't see myself going off this perfume. So, this has been my review for Eau Noire. I recommend that you try it if you can. It is available now in the reformulated version. I prefer this version, but that goes back to my theory about preferring whichever one you smell first. If you've never smelled it before, go to your Dior counter or your Dior boutique and ask to smell it. If that's the first time you've smelled it, you might fall in love with that one, or you might think it's rotten. Because I don't think this perfume is for everybody. It's a tough wear for someone who wouldn't like it. This isn't for for people who want to smell like other people, who just want to smell fresh and clean. It's not that kind of perfume at all. But do try it. Thanks very much, everybody. I will see you all again soon.